Welcome back. We're talking about listening and speaking and focusing on listening comprehension, and now we are looking at viewpoint and opinion. Let's start by just discussing what is a viewpoint, what is an opinion. You can see here that I've provided synonyms because they're basically the same thing. Viewpoint is an idea or a position, and an opinion is a view or a judgment. So you can see that viewpoint and opinion basically mean the same thing. I'm going to read you a text, and this is what you've got to do. You've got to list the two main viewpoints about teenagers and cell phones in the following text. You'll hear there are two viewpoints, so this is the first person speaking. And this person says, "Eish, Ayanda, teenagers are too attached to their cell phones. They never put them down or turn them off. They're either texting their friends or listening to music which will make them deaf because they turn the volume too high. And they text too much. This is bad for them because they do not learn to use language correctly. They shorten every word they can. They use numbers instead of letters, and they never punctuate. And this is a bad thing, and it will have a very bad effect on their schoolwork." And the other person says, "Don't be silly, Gogo. Teenagers need to communicate with their friends. They learn how to be sociable and respond to people. Also, music is good. They need to listen to music. It develops their minds and their feelings." What you say about teenagers using texting language and never being able to write properly is not true. Teenagers can learn to speak isiZulu or isiXhosa, and they can learn English. They know the difference. They'll learn that texting is just a new language. They'll manage texting and every other language they have to speak. All right, again, in class you would have that passage read to you again. Let's have a look at our questions. What are the two main voices? You heard two voices. The first one obviously doesn't approve of cell phones, and the second speaker does. Now you can be asked to do things like list each person's argument. Normally you would be told, listen to the text again and write down the main points. Because of a time factor, I want us to go straight to looking at those main points. Gogo says this: teenagers are too attached to their cell phones. They're either texting their friends or listening to loud music. Texting is bad because teenagers learn to use language in the wrong way. So as you are listening, you need to be interacting with what you hear and remembering the main points. Sometimes your teacher will allow you to make notes while you are listening. So that was the first voice. Now think about the second voice. What were the points in that person's argument? Ayanda said teenagers need to communicate with their friends to learn to be sociable. Music develops teenagers' minds and feelings. And teenagers learn to use texting as just another kind of language with all the others they learn. If we move from listening to speaking, then you can be asked to do unprepared speaking, class discussion, group or pair work, or addressing the class as a whole. Now, when you do your class discussions, you don't usually prepare for them. Sometimes you can be asked to do an unprepared speech and you are given a few moments to prepare. If you're given a topic and you're told you'll speak in 2 or 3 minutes, then take a piece of paper and jot down the main headings, just to help you so that when you stand up, you can look at your piece of paper and have the main points there in front of you. Very important in the syllabus is giving opinions, and here's an example of the kind of thing that you can be asked to do. In groups, each learner gives an opinion of a photograph or picture which includes an unusual detail. And here's an example of such a photograph. If you're given this in a group, you've got time to think, you can relax. If you're given it and then you're told you're going to speak to the class in a few minutes, it's going to be a little bit more stressful, but you're still going to go through the same process. Start by looking at the photograph. What is the unusual detail? Well, you can see there that this person is holding up a magnifying glass around his nose and mouth. So what you get is his face is perfectly normal, but that part of his face is much bigger. So you talk about it. You talk about, is it funny? Is it unusual? Does it make him look gross? Do you find it disgusting? Are you going to say something like it's looking up his nostrils? Make up your mind. Maybe you want to include both your positive, amusing, it's funny, it's unusual, or the more negative. You would talk in a group or in a pair and be assessed on that, or even to the class. So we've looked at listening and listening comprehension, and we've also looked at unprepared speaking and the kind of task that you can be given. We're going to continue with listening and speaking in our next segment.